Hello, y'all. I just wanted to kind of make a video, and I don't know how quick it's going to be. But I heard some stuff I was listening to on YouTube, and there was some folks telling about their dreams and things, some special things that they've had happen to them, and through dreams and things that the Lord has really touched them and helped them and give them understanding through things. And I just wanted to share mine. I'm a dreamer. I've had uh, many dreams. Some good, some bad, some ugly, some that I felt that were, that had meaning. Some that was just, you know, buttermilk dreams or whatever you call them. Uh, but anyway, let me give you a little bit of background here, um, since I'm wanting to put this up where a lot of people don't know us and our situation. Back in 2003, my husband and I had a beautiful baby boy. We had been struggling with infertility for several years, and we finally had our baby boy, and he was perfect. I mean, most beautiful baby boy. And well, we're blessed, and then when he was 3 years old, he started getting sick, and we took him to doctor after doctor trying to figure out what was going on. We knew there was something wrong. The doctors just kept telling us, "Oh, it's a virus, it's this, it's that." Well, finally, we got a hold of a doctor that wanted to get down to the bottom of it, and it ended up being something terrible. It was stage 4 neuroblastoma, amplified. I mean, it was the quick growing type, and my baby was in so much pain, and he didn't get help for so many weeks, and that grieves me to think. We tried our best. We took him to the ER. We took him to many doctors, trying to get help. Finally, we get our help. But anyway, anybody that knows about stage 4 neuroblastoma, it is a booger, and I'll just tell you the statistics are not good. It's one of the worst you can get. One of the worst that you can get, especially outside of brain cancer and things like that. But anyway, we fought a good fight. We did everything that we could. He fought for 2 years, and he did get better. So, I mean, we got a little bit more time with him, and I got to see him grow and see his little personality come out, a little bit more. But we fought for 2 years, and then he went back to Jesus. And I still struggle to this day over that, as you can imagine. He passed away in 2009, as you can imagine. It was something that rocked our world. My husband and I have not been the same, and in some ways the Lord has used it for good things in us, to grow in us, and then other things we have, things that the Lord is working out of us as time goes by that is not good, like Mother's Day. I can't take going to church on Mother's Day very easily. It's just very hard thing for me. But anyway, I said all that to say this. Let's see. He passed away in 2009. In 2011, I was still really having a hard time with everything. And I have found out that really, to me, the second year was worse than the first. The first year, you're just trying to grapple and get a grip of what happened to you and what happened to him, and why he's not there. But then the second year, reality says, this is the rest of your life. And the second year was harder for me than the first. And then, after that, I still had a really hard time, but I began to get in the groove of the way things were, But in 2011, the Lord gave me a wonderful gift. He saw me. I know he saw me that I was grieving and sad, and he gave me this dream. And like I said, I'm a dreamer. I have dreams all the time. Some I think mean something, some that, just everyday fodder. But this one was different. This one was like I was there. I remember thinking to myself, you're so lucid. You're actually here. I told myself that. I said, but is this a dream? But I'm here. That's what I kept telling myself. But I'm getting ahead of myself. It started out just a regular old dream. I dreamed I was in this auditorium, and there was this, I was watching this orchestra play or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but there was some people I knew. And so I'm just dilly-dallying, it's just a dream. And I walked backstage. And when I walked backstage, all of a sudden, my son jumps in front of me. And it's like, all of a sudden, it's just like this veil is taken away from my face, and I see everything around me just clear. And it was like a staging area back there. There was like a little lip, like a makeshift stage. That I saw a pillar, like the Greek like pillar, how they have places that they put a vase or something on. It was like that. And this is where we were at, in this place. And the first thing I did when I saw him, I noticed he was every bit my son. I knew that it was him, but yet he was bigger. He was like he was a young man instead of a little boy at that point. And I took my hands and I put them on his cheeks. And I drew him close to me and I said, "Do you realize how much I've missed you, son?" And at that point, he took my hands and he pulled it away from his face and said, "I know." And then the next thing I said, "I know you don't want me to ask you about heaven." And the reason why I asked that is because I would have dreams of him. I would see him. I'd get to hug him. I would talk to him in my dreams there for a couple years. And I would ask him every time, "Where are you? What is it like where you're at? What's going on? Tell me about it, And he would have this little look on his face in the beginning, like it was a grin, like it was a secret, and he wasn't going to tell me. He'd shake his head like that, and grin, and sometimes he'd bounce around the couch and things like that in my dream, and I'm not going to tell you, But every time I had one of these dreams, and every time I would ask him, he would get a little bit more frustrated with me. He didn't want me to ask him about it, And finally, this dream, I told him, I said, "I know you don't want me to ask you about heaven." And he said, "No, I can't tell you." He acted like he was, I'm not going to say sad, because he wasn't. It was just, he wished he could tell me. He wanted to tell me, but he couldn't. He said, "No, I can't tell you about that, but I do have things I need to tell you." And he began to speak about all this stuff about earth and people and the way people were. And when this happens, people will react this way. And when this happens, people will react that way. And I was sitting there thinking, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe he's sitting there. All the stuff that he's saying makes perfect sense. I've got to remember this when I go back. See, I remembered that part. But then as I'm sitting here and he's talking, he's telling me all this stuff, all of a sudden he looks up at me and he said, because he was sitting down on that little lip, and I was standing there listening to him, and he looks up at me and he says, "Mama, I want you to do something for me." And at this point I was like, "What? Anything?" He said, "I want you to not feel so hard at somebody I know." I'll leave the name out. Because sometimes he thinks people barely see him. And it was a person, and he called him by name. And it was somebody that I had really harbored hard feelings at, back and forth. I would forgive, and then I would go back and be angry, and then I would forgive, and I would be hurt, because this person knew me but took the word of somebody else that wasn't correct about me. Put it that way. And it caused a lot of problems. And I was bitter. And so that's what he said. Don't feel so hard at this person. And then he told me some other things, but I'm going to leave that out. Some things that don't need to be here. So anyway, he tells me this. And then it was like we were in my house after that. Well, we were still there. And he looks up and he says, it's getting morning. I've got to go. Getting daylight. And so then he looks around and we get up and we're in my house. And we're walking through the house. We walk to my front room by the door. And he turns around. And he just embraces me. He gives me this hug. And when he gives me this hug, it is one of the most profound things that I have ever known. Because when he gives me this hug, all of a sudden, permeating out of him is this fierce, amazing, strong, just love like I have never. It's like it's all the different kinds of loves put together. And it's so strong, and it's like he's so much bigger than me, and I'm not a little person. I'm 5'8". I'm not a little person, compared to, as far as women are concerned, I'm not that little. But it's like he drapes over me and he's hugging me up to him. And then I understand that this love that I feel, it's not the love of a little boy towards his mama. It's a love of a big old Father God for his little tiny child. And it's so fierce and it's so powerful and it's so strong. I just can't get over it. It's just, I can't explain it. But I'm just wowed by it. And then I understand why people do the drugs. I understand why people try to have relationship after relationship. They're looking for that. That's what they're looking for. And that all I realize, that's why it's called the desire of every nation. It's that. People are looking for that. They don't know it. And I just got a little taste of it, just a few seconds of it, and it just changed my whole world. Even today, I can't tell you that I really, it's like, it's such a strong thing that I knew it then, I understood it then, and a little bit after, but it's like it faded over time. But I understand how absolutely ginormous it was, And then I understood. Then I was confused for a minute. I thought, well, Lord, this is your love wrapped up in this, this that I see that is my son. I don't know what if God actually allows us to be with our people in a dream. Some of the things that Scripture says, I don't know. I know what I dreamed. I kind of feel like maybe, in a way, God was maybe using my child's image, to speak to me. I don't know exactly what it was, but here we are, and he walks out the door. I walk out with him. We walk out as far as the road. There's a little back road that runs by our house, and he walks out into the road, and the next thing I know, he comes up off the ground. And when he comes up off the ground, there's just one color after the other, like it's a streamer that comes from him as he's going. These beautiful colors, all these different colors, just one right after the other, right after the other, right after the other, as he goes. And he's way up in the air, and I'm watching him leave. I'm looking up, watching him leave, and I'm thinking, God, I sure wish I could go with him for a while. And the next thing I know, there I am right behind him. And I'm looking down and I'm seeing all this patchwork of different things, the fields, all these different things, the terrain, the mountains, just it's just beautiful. The sun's coming up. And I noticed that his name's Jaden. Jaden was zigzagging across the sky, zigzagging from left to right, up and down. And as he was going, I noticed that he had this gold on his head. It was like a helmet that was on his head. He had a bomber jacket. That's what he wore. That's what I noticed he was wearing when we were talking. This bomber jacket. His dad's got one like it. I don't know why he had that on, but his bomber jacket. And he was just going all over the place. And I could hear these thunders, these sonic booms as he was going. Choo, bam, 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 and it was just the most awesome thing. I was right behind him and I was watching, and we were going just so fast. And then the next thing I know, we're at the ocean on the other side. And there's a cliff there. And he barrels down this cliff and he plunges into the water. And I go after him. And I'm like, oh, I don't know about this. And I hit the water. And I remember sitting there looking, and I was turned toward the rock face, and I was watching this blue and the sun as it was coming down through the water and this rock face as I was sinking down, and the bubbles. And I remember telling the Lord, I'm not immortal. I can't do this. I can't breathe. And I heard his voice, the Lord's voice, and he said, oh, you'll be okay. And about that time, my eyes sprang open. And I sat up. And it took me just a few minutes, a few seconds. And all this stuff began to rush back to me. And I just sat there, and I wept, and I wept, and I wept. And for the space of about a week, I was not sad at all. I did not grieve him. I was not sad. I knew where he was at. I knew that something marvelous has been set out in me that I had seen. Something that the Lord give me to give me strength to go on. And, that sadness kind of closed back in, on me. And I still struggle. Even now I struggle. The Lord has blessed us with adopted children that I'm so glad we have. But I'm still sad. I still grieve him. But when I do, I remember that, and the Lord helps me. I don't understand everything. I don't know why. He was only allowed to be with us for 6 years. I do know that death and tragedy and things like that is not God's fault. The Lord told us not to allow this stuff in, and we did. We did in the beginning. That's why all this stuff happens. He gave us free choice, and we chose the wrong thing. That's why there's death. That's why there's suffering. I'm not going to take it any further than that. But I understand that. And good things happen to bad people, and bad things happen to good people, and everything in between. But I do know that one of these days I'm going to look up, and there he's going to be. And this time it won't be forever. And I'll get to know all the things that the Lord had in store for him when he went there. Right now I have trouble. One thing I have trouble with, especially because we weren't able to have any more birth children, is I see the children that have come up after him. I see them grow up. I see them surpassing his age. That used to bother me so bad. It doesn't bother me as bad anymore, but I get to thinking, well, Lord, I didn't ever get to see this milestone in him. I didn't get to see him play softball or baseball. I didn't get to see him play football or basketball. I didn't get to see him, learn to fly fish. That's one thing I love to do. I didn't get to see him do all that. And that has bothered me on and off. But then I remember I get the good part later. These folks, they're still teaching their children about the Lord and about everything about him. Mine sees him face to face. Mine sees him face to face, and mine knows things that these children here could only dream of. And not even that. They can't, it never even entered their mind. Never even entered our minds, you know. And I remember that. But anyway, I wanted to share this dream for people that have had similar situations to mine, that are grieving over their child, grieving over the lost time that they feel that they've lost with them. Stay close to Him. Stay close to the Lord. Because you know what? These children that passed away like that, they're hidden away safe in the Lord. And when you're close to Him, you're close to them too. You know, we can't do all these, you know, the Lord told us, don't try to contact people that's went on. Don't try to do that. Don't try to go to mediums and all that junk. Because number one, that's not them. That's some demonic force, you know. And number two, we don't need to be going to anything outside God trying to, that's no. But the thing is, the Lord can let us know things that we need to know and can bring comfort to us. And I'm thankful for that the closer we get to Him, the more comfort we have. Just remember that, please. Please, please, please remember that. Do not. I know from experience that when you have these things happen to you, you want to go away. Sometimes you're frustrated, you're angry. Sometimes you don't know, like, God, why me? Why did this happen to me and my child, my family? And, you know, that's probably a normal progression of things. The Lord understands us. The Lord knows our heart. He understands our grief. He understands our grief. But He also knows the other side of it, that this is not all there is. Please remember that. I know right now there's so many voices speaking, saying that this next realm, that it doesn't exist, that this is all there is, that, you know, once you die, that's it. But it's not it, y'all. It's not it. Remember, your young child is safe with Him, hidden away with Him. Never ever to have the problems again that we have. And I know sometimes that feels like little consolation now to your hurting heart, because I get it. I've been there. I know. I still know. I deal with it every day of my life, even now, almost 10 years later. But I tell you, there's still a good, rich life that you can live in Him, even beyond this kind of tragedy. And one day, I told the Lord this. One day, we're going to bow down at His feet and thank Him for how He worked out all things together for our good and for our child's good. You know, we don't know what tomorrow may have held for our child. You know, but the Lord did. The Lord understood, you know. And so we just got to trust Him, even in the hard things. This is as hard as nails. It's as hard as nails. But I don't think we're going to be disappointed if we just trust Him right now and live in peace. Live in peace that He gives us. There's nothing else like it. And I thank Him so much for it. I just wanted to... you know, to tell you this and encourage you. Just wait and tarry a little bit longer and get close to Him. And you know, you won't be sorry. You won't be sorry for it.